what is your 2030 Tesla stock price target?
Oh, you mean like a what dart am I going to throw at the wall? And um, y- I think that there's the way I thought about it was from 200. Uh, I think that by 2030, it's very possible that we see like a 5x. So seeing a
Thousand.
thousand makes sense to me. Does that is that like I think like in probabilities. That's another Emmett Peppers one. I think about like what is the probability that we see a thousand in 2030 or 2029, or is it 2031, or like when is it, and what does the underlying business have to do in order for it to get to that valuation? And so uh, the company that we see now is way better, and with more, more potential for SaaS revenue, more potential for energy. We're going to start seeing these things playing out over the next couple of years. And I look at that, where's the CEO and where's the company? What are they targeting? If if they're targeting that energy becomes greater than auto, I remember that. If FSD becomes larger than energy, I remember that. And then bot. Okay, well they're writing a new book, and like I think about the words that are being said. Obviously, they're very grandiose. 30 trillion. Wow, you're insane. No company has ever existed that. But is it possible, right? Is it possible? How much probability would you assign to that becoming a reality, that Tesla becomes worth 6 trillion or worth 5x that? I don't know. It's such a, we don't have enough data to model or realistically model it. It becomes just like a guess on execution, right? Are they able to execute what they're targeting? And the reason I picked Tesla, it's because of the total addressable market, right? The TAM. And back in 2019, I looked at what were the largest TAMs of the market, and it was like oil and energy, and pharmaceutical was up there, auto is up there. Um, so when you looked at it and you look at how big of a pie are they going after, it's massive, and the bot pie doesn't exist yet, right? So
Mm,
that to me is why it is impossible to guess, but also it is not entirely impossible, right? It's a greater than 0% chance that we do have bots roaming around on the streets and in our homes. We already do have bots, right? People have lawn care bots, they have floor sweeping bots, they have a
mm,
car that is
okay.
a bot with four
Yeah, yeah.
wheels. And so we have robots, and we have, you could see in, if you walk through the Tesla factory and you get a tour, you can see so many bots, and they're purpose built. And now we have maybe a general form and a humanoid bot, which makes sense as well because the world is built for the humans, and it's in human form, and tools and everything that it's all built for us. So building a humanoid bot that can do what we do makes sense to me.
Yeah. So you're saying 1,000 is realistic by 2030.
It's a nice round number. It's possible.
Nice. I'm think. Well, yeah. I mean, in 2030, it all comes down to you know, what gets solved, what gets relieved. Because I know ARK is saying by 2027 or even 2026, the stock's gonna be around 2,000, and because of the reason of the robot taxis being on mass scale and stuff like that. But the question is, do we see robot taxi being mass scale by 2026, 2027? Like that's the
Yeah,
hard part to see.
sure. And I don't think it necessarily is. It's like, what is your definition of mass scale? And what, how much revenue is the company pulling in? That's the question.
Yeah.
And what is that growth rate of the revenue? Because like if you think about what we used to say, right, the target was 2030, by 2030 Tesla would make 20 million vehicles. And Wall
Yeah.
Street asked the great question. How, go ahead, divvy that up. How many How many are, the sedan? How many are vans? When you start breaking it down, at some point you run out of, the whole fleet has been electrified. There's a long way to go, but we saw 414 when you just had cars, right? And the market got way ahead, way over its skis, as they say. And you had free money, right? You had free money being printed by the Fed. And so, you know, realistically, like last year, I between my options guys, I called 250 in the beginning of the year, and then that's exactly where it ended up. I wasn't overly enthusiastic. This year, same thing. Some people are like, "Oh, 300, it's easy." I was like, no, 270 to me was a genuine surprise. I was, the fact that it went over 250, I thought was great. But that's when, I didn't panic with covered calls that I had because I just didn't think that it can hold, especially once they move the date. And that's what
Mm.
Wall Street likes to do, right? They buy the rumor and then they sell the news. And who gets stuck holding the bag? Foolish. No offense to anyone. Foolish us foolish retail people who have FOMO. We FOMO in at the worst possible time, right? You watch it go and climb and climb and climb, and it's like, oh, fine, okay, I'm gonna get it, and that's when they
That's
rug
when they
you.
pull the
And
rug. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's hilarious. No, through what I see, I think around 1400 to 1500 by 2030 would make sense
okay.
around. But then again, it all comes down how they execute the robot taxi. Like Ark is saying 900 billion or 600 billion revenue. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that soon. Well, that's like three
Yeah.
years from now. I'm not too sure.
Well, their modeling is usually what, 5 years out, and they're saying that
Yeah,
they'll usually have
2029.
the bearish, bear case, bull case, and
Yeah,
middle of the road.
all
So
that kind of stuff. Let's see.
yeah,
Let's see. I don't know.
exactly.
I'm keeping it between 14 1500 and
But
anything
why
more than
so
that.
greedy? Why so greedy? What, you're not going to be happy with 600 on the stock?
Well, here's the thing. When I break down the numbers, that I get very conservative with these numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm thinking by end of 2032, Tesla will have 32 billion. I have to check my numbers again, but I think it's on 32 billion in just revenue alone in 2032. So my expectation isn't really that high. It's not like Ark Invest High where they say by 2027 they're gonna have
You mean
400.
profits?
No revenue.
32 billion?
Yeah, for the robot. I
Aren't
think I have to pull it up. I have to pull it up to
Yeah,
see what
I
exactly it is.
yeah, I think that don't they have more revenue now?
No, just robot taxis.
Okay,
Just the robot
gotcha. Just
taxis.
just the robo taxis.
Yeah, just robot taxis. It would be around. Let me see if I can find it. I pull that out here. Yeah, 2032 around robot taxi revenue of about 38 billion and profits
38.
of being 10% of that, actually. Not even 30 40%, because and this is only taking the effect of Tesla's own fleet.
Wouldn't
Not
their take be much higher than 10% if you like what is the costs for
Oh
for
no.
it? You
Oh yeah,
mean
yeah.
from
So
the cars themselves?
because here's the thing, when Tesla wants to do the what's it called, robotaxi themselves, they got to produce the vehicle, which is probably going to be
Right.
around 20,000. They have to insure it, they have to clean it, they have to pay for the
Gotcha.
charge, they have to put the depreciation, they got to put all these things, which at the end of it comes down to a 30% gross profit or 25%. I mean,
Okay.
this is how I'm modeling it. um That's energy profits. Oh wait, no, my bad. Not 10%, 30%, 30%. That makes sense. So 38 billion in revenue in 2032 in
Hmm.
robotaxis, and profits around like 12 billion. Like that's
Okay.
what I see robotaxis doing. Of course, energy will be much higher then. I'm closer to 80 billion in revenue, profits around 25 billion if it's 20%. And then the main things are, and then as we keep going on with the robotaxi, it just exponentially starts to grow and stack on each other. Like that's the beauty about this um robotaxi. Like for 2026, I put here revenue being 19 million, profits, I don't know about profits, but then the year after that it goes to 38 billion, and then in 2028 it goes to 380 billion, and then in 2029 the year after that it goes to 3.8 billion. So like it just stacks on because it's just an exponential growth. Once they see the data that is beautiful, all they got to do is just deploy it in different states and maybe in different parts of China or maybe even Europe at that time. So that's how I view it, and that's how I get to the valuation by 2030 around maybe. I mean, if they're growing like this and if they're actually doing licensing deals and the bot is coming up, you could give it a high PE of around like maybe 100. Maybe you can get away with over $2,000 per share by 2030, but I'm keeping it in like the 1400s, 1500s around there.
Gotcha.
But going
Yeah.
to your point, yeah, going to your point that if I'm not happy if it's like 600, hell no, I'm not gonna be happy about that, man.
Why? But see that to me is how I got in trouble the first time.